Hello. Welcome to Vito's Hotspot.
Welcome to Vito's Hotspot.
Oh, hello there. My name is Antmomm, and you're watching Vito's Hotspot, the only quality television program about art and architecture. This season, we'll be thinking through architecture as a virtual and material mechanism for the production of culture, aesthetics, ritual, erotics, habits, and power. A quick note that no architects will be interviewed this season, as they may all be corrupted with orthogonal logics, and this container is simply not adequately equipped to hold them. If you think I'm wrong, just go to the nearest intersection of wall and floor and try to fit inside. Tell me I'm wrong again. Sometimes we all dream of becoming a liquid so that we may enter those spaces which repel us. And I welcome you now to that dream. But before we begin, a quick word from our sponsor.
All right, Vito here. We've got exciting news today. Vision developments have some new luxury suites available today. We have some beautiful condominiums up for grab in the heart of Toronto. Starting at 3.2 million, these affordable living spaces could be yours today.
And welcome back. And welcome to the Cologne Cathedral. My guest today is the Vito Variety Hour pageant winner, Liz Waterman, or Aphex.Redditor if you use the internet. Liz is hot and smart and cool and goth. She's a video artist whose work will make you say thank you for making your eyes and ears bleed. She's a maximalist who is able to locate profound truths in the annals of doom scrolls and meme silos. Today, we're going to be talking about Gothic architecture and its influence on contemporary Gothic aesthetics. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for flying me out to Cologne so we could be at the beautiful Cologne Cathedral, otherwise known as 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Anything
you.
for you. We really wanted to have you on and make you feel comfortable here.
Oh, there's no place I would feel more comfortable than one of the biggest and most beautiful cathedrals made during the early Gothic period.
I understand that you have a brief prepared for us.
I do have a brief prepared.
To that now.
So I've prepared today a presentation that takes us on a journey from the early medieval Gothic period, when Gothic architecture is first introduced, to how it's influenced the current social and fashion landscape of the brand known as Opium. So we start off in the Renaissance, actually, after we've erected these cathedrals across Europe. In the Renaissance period, when people were looking back to Italian classical design as being the beacon of progress, famous Renaissance painter Giorgio Vasari denounced Gothic architecture as being so-called the destruction of advancement and sophistication. And I just want to bring that up because that is a through line throughout this entire conversation. So, going into the Gothic period, it first starts happening around the 12th to the 16th. That's wrong, whatever I have in that PowerPoint. It's the 12th to the 16th century. This is a period of time after the Romanesque period. The Catholic Church has grown immense political and financial power. And so the Gothic architectural design philosophy was to inspire awe. So we have big vaulted ceilings, stained glass windows, tall vertical orientation, and some of the most beautiful ornate designs given to every aspect of the design of the cathedral itself. So one of the reasons for this is to kind of flaunt the wealth and power of the Catholic Church, to convince people to come to this gathering place and understand God and, of course, the Catholic Church as being bigger than man, something to stand out from the usual houses that village people would be living in these periods.
The
village people. Okay, so here's just a couple pictures of the cathedral we are in today. Clonardom. This is one of my most favorite churches ever. I've actually never been to Cologne before, so I'm so happy that Vito's Hotspot had the budget to make this dream a reality. But it's super goth. Like, in terms of what we think of goth as today and these like early designs of what goth was. It's like got these insane like ornate traceries, pointed arches being one of the biggest design features, and it just towers above the rest of the city. One version of Gothic architecture that was coming out during this period was the flamboyant Gothic. This was particularly popular in France. And this is where we just get balls to the wall crazy. This is just when they were adding more stained glass windows than actual vaulted ceilings. This is when they were having things like tracery that was in the shape of the flames of hell, which is where flamboyant comes from, actually.
Oh, like flame.
Like the to flame. Exactly. So we go back into this idea of it lacking sophistication. What do they say? Gaudiness is next to godliness. So obviously the term Gothic, we know it now to be something more related to pop culture. And that comes about during the Neo-Gothic era, which is during the Victorian era, which is really funny because they were re-erecting or rebuilding these Gothic cathedrals, specifically to hold on to the conservatism of the Catholic Church after a period when people's belief in God was waning due to something called the Enlightenment. So with the re-imbuing the church with spiritualism and this kind of awe-inspiring architecture, which is also coinciding with the Romantic period, people were inspired to go back to the church as being this all-powerful, dominant political structure. So that's the reason why Gothic kind of revived. But one of the best parts of this is that it also took on its name through this burgeoning pop culture with the birth of Gothic literature. So it's a period where people have access to books, people can read now, and this cultural idea of spiritualism against the cold kind of sadness of the logical Enlightenment allows for pop culture to kind of be born, and the idea of the Gothic being something that travels through people instead of through buildings. So, no more churches. I'm going to fast forward us about like 100 years later to the 1980s in the Western world. Again, it's an increased period of time of conservatism with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan being in power in the United States and the UK. So, the idea of Gothic comes back as sort of like a counter to this conservative political structure. People like to say goth kind of emerged as a subculture from punk, which is very true. But we're going to go into details about how it strayed further from this idea of punk and it comes back to its roots in medieval Gothic once we get more into the 21st century. So I want to go into the idea of
products replacing places.
With the idea of global capitalism. At this point, people congregate less through church and they congregate more through products.
Yes.
And for the goth subculture, that was mostly through music and through fashion, which is where we come to goth as we know it now. And you probably have an idea in your head already. Black lipstick, Victorian and featured gowns, leather and lace, spiky chokers, and sort of like this philosophical idea of nonconformity. Well, if you consider it in that time period. Nonconformity in a society that is conforming to the almighty dollar. And so at this period of time, I'm just going to skip through even more. Goths show up in the rave scene with electronic music, fetish and kink communities with kind of increased sex awareness and culture. They find themselves online, early forums. They find themselves in emo. People thought that the earliest emos were completely derivative of goth. I know, but I kind of fuck with that. I understand. Like, they're interested in the same sorts of things. It just took on a new form with the introduction of the internet. Oh, I want to talk about school shootings really briefly.
Yeah, of course. I think it's important.
I think it's incredibly important to talk about school shootings when we talk about goth, because obviously the Columbine shootings happened, and they were sort of like these gothy kids who listened to Marilyn Manson, and so goth has always been associated with some sort of like fear-mongering in pop culture. Goth is going to corrupt you somehow, make you kill all your classmates or join a satanic cult. So the new era of goths, and that's where we come into the current timeline. And so we think of goth as being this thing from the past, like subcultures are dead with the internet, everything's flattened because we're all on the same platform. And so this is where I like to mark the transition between
Products being the new church and images being the new church.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly. So people are congregating and sharing community and communion. Cheers. Through image sharing, and the way you differentiate yourself or assign yourself a role in a community is through the images that you do share. And so this fits very well with goth because it has become such a visual like way of sharing information about yourself and what you stand for. But the more important part about this is that now that music isn't really the dominant way people assign themselves an identity, music isn't how we ascribe subculture particularly anymore. So here enters rap music, which is like the new rock music. Rap music is taken over all pop. Every kind of song you hear on the radio, chances are it's probably produced through a hip-hop lens or from the history of hip-hop music being so popular.
It's true.
So, of course, it's very natural that the next iteration of social gothness, social goth behavior, of dress, of like thought, would be through hip hop. And that's where Opium comes into the game. Do you know about Opium?
Like the drug?
Definitely inspired by the drug. So it's the music label by Playboi Carti.
Oh, of course.
Of
yes.
course,
Yeah.
of course. And so he's kind of like this vampiric figure with a huge cult following. But Opium isn't really directly attached to his label.
Right, so the label itself doesn't actually produce clothing or any kind of like consumer object.
Not really. I mean, they have merch, sure, but that's not really what signifies an Opium kid.
Okay.
So to get into that, the Opium look is characterized by all black clothing, obviously, as all kind of goth iterations are. But it's also tying in with like very common like hip hop ideology and visual styles. So it has very big flashy jewelry, baggy pants and hoodies, but everything is incredibly high end. And the goal is to have a very exaggerated silhouette to make yourself seem like more than human.
Interesting.
Exactly. So different layered textures, all in black, like distressed denim, faux fur, leather, big platform shoes, tons and tons of silver jewelry, like marked by chrome hearts. Its signifier is a Gothic cross.
Right. Yes.
So we're already seeing the signs here of its direct relation to like medieval Gothic. Some of like the major designers that you could see Opium kids coveting would be like Rick Owens, Chrome Hearts, as I said, Yohji Yamamoto, like designers who have already made a name for themselves as being goth within the world of haute couture.
Right.
Which is really fun in terms of how these houses are adapting to the demands of this new era of social media goths. I think I have a picture in here somewhere. Oh yeah, so this is like an example of like what Opium looks like on the street.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I mean, you can see in the central here, I wanted to put that because this is like an Opium teenager or whatever posing in front of a Gothic church. So you can see the similarities even like in the visual aesthetic. The composition of the photo is very important. The way people are posing, they want to hide their faces to emphasize their bodies being honestly like monstrous, vampiric. The goal here is to be more than human. similar to the intentions of early Gothic literature and early Gothic architecture and the Neo-Gothic, but particularly like the medieval Gothic from the 12th century onward. The importance of opium is placed on flashiness and excess and giving this awe-inspiring effect on the public. So that ties in a lot more with like the ideology and like the trends within hip-hop music and hip-hop culture, which to me would make hip-hop way more goth than punk rock ever was.
Yes.
Because, like, I don't know, punks are Marxists or whatever, but
they're from the gutter.
They're from the
dirt.
fucking gutter. They're from the dirt. Those are the peasants looking up at the towering Gothic cathedral above them.
Yeah.
So, to bring it all together with a beautiful big black velvet bow, opium's place, while being street style initially, is actually dominantly online. The way you would kind of advertise yourself as being a part of this opium crew would never be being seen in public. It's by being seen on social media platforms. So, images have replaced both churches and products, as I earlier said. So this is one thing I said. Images in a society where culture is predominantly produced and consumed online are the biggest vehicles for cultural output. And so you can see how opium people need to be posting and how their trends and how they edit and treat their images and pose for these images and how they center their subjects and how even they show off the clothes is purely kind of produced online. Like the vehicle now is the digital platform rather than the physical platform. So you can own all the Rick in the world. You can go to the biggest, most gorgeous Cologne cathedral ever. But, I mean, if you don't post it, you're not really contributing to your counterculture in any significant way at all.
Absolutely not.
No, totally. And so, I leave you with this. The ornate tracery of these churches becomes masterful video editing. Pointed arches become the vertical format of Reels and TikToks. And gorgeous central altars become yourself. So you are now dripped up, posed, and ready to be worshipped just like the god that these churches were once erected for.
Here you have it. Here you have it. As you can see, we have these living spaces that are suited for creatives and innovators who want to appreciate Toronto's greatest and step into the future. These spaces are not just domestic, but where home life and innovation come together. We use data and tech to increase the quality of life. These sensor-laden spaces allow you to work, play, and sleep, and will adapt to your needs, and build as you live. This is a living space for the future.
I wonder if you think, are there goths that wear white? Are there going to be goths that wear white?
There have always been goths that have worn white, because just as much as black is something that like unifies you and can make you appear bigger or changeable, white has also been a symbol of the opposite of that, like laying bare all that is for the eye to see. And so in a world where, we dress to conceal certain parts and highlight other parts, white sort of exemplifies, like, I have nothing to hide. That makes me an angel. It makes me something pure. Like the white dread goths in The Matrix 2.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. I love that design because it's, like, opposed to all of, like, the good guys who are wearing, like, these undercover spy outfits, essentially. These, like, evil secret villains who supposedly have nothing to hide. are all dressed in white. There's also like a Rick Owens runway that happened like last summer where there's like a central figure who walks out who's elderly and she has large breasts and she is dressed only in like a structured draped white cloth. And she's walking out amongst this almost like authoritarian uniform runway in front of like this monumental building. And so she sort of represents like this domineering force.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up the Rick Owens runway because I have been thinking a lot about his designs in relationship to Gothic architecture and contemporary Gothic architecture. I don't know if you know this, but when he was a kind of a young design student, he was a very sought-after pattern drafter in LA. And so he met Michelle Lamy in, I think, the 80s. And at the time, I mean, she was 20 years his senior.
Yeah, totally.
Like, so hot. But she had a sportswear brand at the time.
I didn't know that. That is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's
and very sexy too.
Yeah,
I
so
can picture
gorgeous.
it.
Yeah, I mean, she's like so fit. Of course, she like is the only person who can make like fitness aesthetic.
Exactly. I guess also before that kind of became a trend too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She was the first one to do it.
It was very brutal, very like harsh, kind of like, self-effacing fitness.
Like the opposite of let's get physical.
It was like you should be like self-flagellating until you bleed to death.
Beautiful. I love that.
And these are the clothes that you're gonna wear while you do that.
Perfect. Let's get the coquette girlies back on that.
Yeah, fuck that. But anyways, I have been thinking about his clothing brand as this kind of relationship between the intricate tailoring or like architecture of like couture garments or men's suiting and this kind of like sports wear mindset. And so thinking about this kind of history that you presented to us of like this kind of ornate Gothic architecture to an almost immaterial reality for goth aesthetics, thinking about how their relationship actually kind of emblematizes the same process of turning the inside itself.
Okay.
So like thinking about like Rick Owens' pieces are obviously gorgeous, but he's so obsessed with fabrics and construction. Everything he makes is so well made. The garments are made of the finest silks, the finest wools, but they look so simple. And so these ornate kind of motifs, architectural motifs, have actually, I think, been swallowed by the structure and are now on the inside.
I see what you mean. Like, the expert construction, it's not like he's making a t-shirt and jeans. It definitely, like, it looks clean. It looks minimalist to a degree, but I would argue that it is way more maximalist than people give it credit for.
Can you say more?
Totally. So one of like the design concepts is like being in the desert, being like from sci-fi, a character who actually has to go and do action, but always looking like you're on another fucking planet. And so everything is draped magnificently. There's so much detail in just how the fabric should flow on a body. Again, with like the shaping of the human body too, like lesser to a degree than like Mugler, but he definitely wants to create a specific silhouette with his forms where the feet are weighted down and the shoulders are broadened out. And you can see that now with like, I mean, recent Rick Owens is very sporty with like inflatable pant legs and shoulder pads, which almost feels like you're doing water sports, but like as like a goth like Opium kid or whatever.
Totally.
These things are ornate, but like obviously modernism happened in between the Gothic period, Neo-Gothic period, and now. And modernism, people have talked about this endlessly. It's not just about stripping it all down. It's stripping it all down to make something new out of only the forms that are left post-industrial. And so now that it's not just post-industrial, it's post-digital, these ornate ideas are competing for each other. You don't need to have the most patterned shit or the most like embroidered fabrics ever.
You don't need to dazzle.
You don't need to dazzle, but you need to have arches. You need to be vertically oriented. And I think like if the goal back then was to inspire awe, I think Rick Owens, that's current through all of his works.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you think about the Dune costume design? Do you think it's
Dune?
Yeah, like the new Dune? Have you seen them?
I didn't see the Dune movies. I've seen the costumes.
Okay. Do you think it's a Rick Owens ripoff? Do you think it's like an extension of his project? Do you think there's any relationship at all?
There's definitely a relationship. It's just that like I've seen people who collect Rick Owens as like an autism project do it better. Like maybe like the fact that it isn't a costume is what makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
And if it's just a costume, then it cheapens the look. It's not so much awe anymore. It's damn.
Yeah, I think for me it was more like the practical costumes that they designed for the movie. So like especially I think they're called still suits. Where they're you should definitely watch these movies.
Okay, I need to watch
100% watch these movies.
Oh, they just look so boring.
No, they're not boring. They're
I like
gorgeous.
the David Lynch
if you liked the Rick Owens house tour, you're gonna like Dune
this.
1 and 2.
Okay, I can get behind it. I can spend 9 hours of my day.
It's not gonna feel like 9 hours. It's gonna feel like you blinked your eyes and now you're living in a different world.
Okay, I'm sold.
And I hate Timothée Chalamet. I like actually hated.
You hate Timothée Chalamet.
I hate Timothée Chalamet, and I also like hated how many fucking celebrities they put in these movies.
Yeah, me
it was just
too.
like everyone wanted a piece of the pie, and they're just like, yeah, sure, and then it's like.
Well, I can't see it as Dune. I see it as Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet wearing Rick Owens knockoffs.
It's a pageant, not unlike the one that you won.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, it's a pageant for sure, especially the fact that it's like, let's take a theme, a famous book in sci-fi literature, and like, let's reenact it rather than let's embody it.
It's true.
Which is, I don't know, that's fine. It's just that there's so much money behind it, and I think it looks over-bloated.
Anyways, all this is to say is that I found like a hot quote from the costume designers from Dune.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll just read it quickly. Their names are Jacqueline West and Bob Morgan, and this was from a Vogue interview in October 2021, so for the first Dune movie. It's a futuristic take on the past and immediately made me think of medieval references, ancient tarot cards, and alchemy. We went back to Greek tragedy, as I felt that there was a correlation between the House of Atreus and the House of Atreides. I'm probably saying that wrong. Our references were primarily historical.
That makes sense.
And Danny loved it.
Of course, Danny loved it. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's a spiritual, novel.
It is a spiritual, yeah, it is. It is, yeah.
And, like, so, too, has Gothic always been associated with the spiritual?
Yeah.
Like, when they were reviving it in, like, the Victorian era, the goal was to, like, put out the fires of the Enlightenment. Or of, like, logical thinking over spiritual thinking. And so, like, then fan the flames of spiritualism. And so, like, I think it makes a lot of sense that, like, something mysterious, unknown, otherworldly, godly, divine, like, fits its way into this, like, futuristic adaptation. I mean, isn't the novel specifically about finding God? Or, like...
I'm fairly certain, yeah. I mean, I haven't read it, but...
Neither have I. I mean, who has the time? But... But, I mean, that's what I've heard many people discussing this. I'm sure there's paper after paper.
Absolutely.
And so, like, as much as there's something powerful that you want to exude over people, the ultimate, I think, like, through line is that there's a power that we cannot know and trying to adapt that.
Yeah, and also trying to co-opt it.
Co-opt it, exactly,
yeah.
and adapt it. For your time.
Yeah,
so it makes sense.
Yeah, but also co-opt it to distract the people from what's actually going on.
Yes, totally.
On the floor.
Yeah, spiritualism is a very dangerous thing just as much as it is a powerful thing.
Yeah. I loved what you said about the Opium style being kind of unworldly.
Oh, yeah.
They're really morphing the shapes of their bodies to become something that's perhaps more than human. And a theorist I really like to think about, Erin Manning, she talks about clothing as a form of small architecture. And just like architecture, how it allows or is designed to accommodate for certain gestures. For instance, our church is built for prayer, built for worship, built for the gestures of baptism and marriage, all these holy sacraments. So I'm wondering, what kind of gestures do you think that these garments are designed for?
That's really interesting. I love that question because I think to tie it back to like the digital or, social media being the new church, being the architecture, these clothes are definitely designed for you to have your photograph taken in them. Like the motion, the movements, the gestures you're supposed to have when you're wearing these clothes are poses. You're supposed to stand tall. You're supposed to arch your back. You're supposed to put your feet in front of the camera and put it down on the ground so you look exaggeratedly tall. And that's why I think like the structure of platform shoes, for example, works great. It makes your feet look bigger, your waist look smaller, and makes you look taller. And if the clothes themselves probably don't make you look that unhuman when you're right next to other humans.
Right.
But when you're comparing it to other images, it can make you look post-human.
And it's something I've always been so interested about black clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it's kind of this like productive concealment. I don't know if I'm wording that properly, but because everything looks as if it is a shadow, it has the potential to be anything.
Exactly. And I think that's been a reason why black has been so popular in goth since its conception. So like goth kids, to differentiate themselves from the other Reagan era teenagers in their high school, would wear these black clothes. And that's like one way to conceal your humanity, make you something of a black void. And now that's gone beyond just like social differentiation and more into like character creation, it's sort of like a blank slate.
Yeah.
To create something for yourself out of that might be bigger and better than the flesh. I mean, like other colors, they pick up on like how your skin folds, your fat, your bones.
Yeah.
But black can hide it all, so you can play around more with like building yourself to be more than what you actually are.
There's more potential in black.
Exactly. Black is sort of like image treatment. It's also a contract. It ends in August. So I'm going to be drunk. I'm not going to want to do it.
We can help you write it.
I just need the cover letter. My CV's already done.
I mean, I just get AI to write my cover letters at this point.
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, cover letters.
But I feel like that's maybe why I'm getting rejected so frequently, is because my cover letters are very obviously written by ChatGPT.
You just have to like edit them.
I definitely edit them, and I get Hakeem to translate them, and when he translates them...
You're applying to French jobs.
Yeah, because I can do French. I just need to convince them off the bat to do. I'm fine in French, but I need 𝗔𝗶𝘃. I'm not trying to do any French jobs where I would be mediating.
And now, get ready for Vito's Hotspot Shop Talk Box, where we listen to your thoughts.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My producer keeps making us do like community outreach. So yeah, we have some calls we have to answer.
Okay.
It's somewhat for public research purposes.
Okay, okay. Or
Yeah.
is the data going to be collected anywhere? Is it going to be made public?
I mean, as public as this show is.
Oh, okay, so quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless we're behind a paywall. Are we on Patreon?
No.
Okay, good.
No, this is public access television.
All right, then pour me another glass.
Of course. My pleasure. Okay, are you ready to answer some calls?
I've never been more ready.
Okay.
Yeah, so, this is like an architecture show, right? So, I was going through like my boyfriend's text messages the other day, and he was like texting some girl that he was like all bricked up. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, is he building me a house? Like, it's so fucking nice. Yeah, just hoping maybe you could offer like some insight into that. Like, can you build a brick house in this like day and age? Like, do I want a brick house? I don't know, but yeah, let me know. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, damn. Okay. I think that you should go to church. And you should go to a Catholic cathedral. And you should go to beeline. Run, don't walk to that confessional booth.
And say exactly what you just said to us.
Exactly what you just said to us. And then I'm going to need you to make a quick Google search on the architecture of today. Your cell phone.
No one's building brick houses.
Let me tell you that much.
No
one's building brick houses in this day and age. And also, like, Google is an amazing tool. You can find people's home addresses. You can Uber Eats yourself a carton of eggs, or you can mix bleach and like Windex or something, put it in a little bottle, put a little fabric in there, and then...
Hey, yeah. Thanks for taking my call. I'm a drawing and painting student from Concordia. And I don't know, I keep like dating all these fucking goth chicks. I'm really inspired by their looks, you know? Like I fucking love their aesthetics, all the layers and like textures and shit. Like it's just really beautiful. But then I go to their places and it's like fucking Walmart hellscape. Like all this fucking cardboard furniture, fucking Build-A-Bear laboratory motherfucking bullshit. And I just like, I don't know, I can't get it up in these plastic environments. And I don't know. I'm wondering if you guys have any insight or like opinions on like, can someone actually be goth when their house looks like fucking garbage? Anyways, yeah, thanks again for taking my call. Love the show.
Okay, so to begin with, you're getting scammed. Second of all, what does your apartment look like? Why do you need to fuck her in her apartment? Invite her over. If you think you can do better, invite her over.
Or find a nice church or alleyway.
Or find a nice church or alleyway or an unattended construction site.
Okay, but back to the question. Do you think that somebody can be goth if their apartment looks not goth?
They are only goth if their apartment does not. God. I don't know. Goth is in the eye of the performer.
In the eye of the performer.
In the eye of the performer.
So not the perceiver.
No. The perceiver, it's clear that you just like hot women.
Yes, hello. I am a professor. I'm calling from an undisclosed university, and I'm wondering what you ladies think about the role of liminality in Gothic architectural spaces and how this contributes. Shut up! How this contributes to the feeling often associated with the Gothic style. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. But like my thoughts personally are exactly what your friend there said. Shut up. Shut
the fuck up.
To begin with, you're a professor. Like, I don't know if you need answers or you're just trying to like bait us. Second of all, like, maybe you have better opinions on this than I do.
Personally, I think that the word liminality should be banned from all academics' vocabulary.
Yep, just like utilize.
Utilize.
Liminality. Gone.
Interstitial.
Yo, what's up? What's up? So, I was chilling with the fucking boys, and my bro, he keeps going off about these fucking I-beams. What the fuck is an I-beam? Like, are there beams of, like, other letters of the alphabet? Like, fucking ABC beams? Like, what the fuck?
There might be.
Yeah, I don't I couldn't say.
And again, no architects
Are
this
being
season.
interviewed this season.
Yeah. But I-beams. Well, like when I look at someone and when I look at a church, when I look at the church we are in today in 𝗠𝘅 𝗟𝗏𝗪, my eye beams right to the top because it's so tall and beautiful, and I just want to like look at it. And then I think my eye beams. My eye beams that way.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if I could, if we're talking about lines of vision, like an ABC line of vision, or an ABC line of vision. Like that's just like that sounds like a seizure.
That's so true. And is your boy like? Is he cool?
Yes, hello. This is Margaret calling from the Coalition Against Escalators. I'm calling to see if I could get a quote from you ladies regarding the scourge of escalators on public health. We are a coalition dedicated to public health. We think all citizens should be walking up the fucking stairs.
Okay.
Do you have a quote from Margaret?
A quote, okay. Jam that shit, and then it becomes a staircase. Jam that shit. You got high heels? Rip that bitch off. Put that shit in the beginning of the gears. I don't care if it explodes. Jam that shit, and then it becomes a staircase.